Can you hear me in there?
Owen Taylor pressed his face against the frozen car window. A woman in a silk gown slumped over the steering wheel, lips blue.
Help me, I'm dying!
I'm gonna get you out. I can't move.
I can't feel my legs.
Owen pulled the door, jammed solid. Empty road, no lights, no one.
Please, don't leave me alone here.
He had nothing. No phone, no tools. Just a rusted bike held together with tape. His only way to work. His grandmother's only lifeline to insulin.
God, somebody, please!
Owen grabbed the bike chain and ripped it off the frame. A freezing stranger in silk, a broke black kid in a torn jacket, and a choice that would change both their lives, but not the way anyone expected. 6 hours before that moment, Owen Taylor's alarm didn't go off. It didn't need to. His body knew 4:30 a.m. the way birds know winter. Something deep, something trained by years of having no choice. He sat up in the dark. The trailer was cold enough to see his own breath. The space heater in the corner had died 3 days ago, and the landlord hadn't returned his calls. Owen pulled on 2 shirts, a hoodie, and the same pair of work boots he'd worn since junior year of high school. The left sole was separating from the toe. He'd glued it twice. In the next room, his grandmother coughed. Not the short, dry kind. The deep, wet kind that made Owen stop moving and listen until he heard her breathe again. Ruth Taylor was 71. She'd raised Owen since he was 4 after his mother left and his father went to prison for something Owen stopped asking about years ago. Ruth had strong hands and a voice that could quiet a room. But lately, her hands shook when she poured coffee, and her voice came out thinner every week. Diabetes. The insulin cost $400 a month. Insurance covered half. The rest came from Owen. He stepped into the kitchen, if you could call it that. A counter, a hot plate, a mini-fridge that hummed too loud. He filled a glass of water and set it by Ruth's door. Quiet. She needed sleep more than conversation. Outside, Crestwood Trailer Park sat in pre-dawn silence. 26 trailers arranged in crooked rows along a dirt road that turned to mud when it rained and froze into ruts when it didn't. Owen's trailer sat at the far end, closest to the tree line, farthest from the road. The spot nobody wanted. His bike leaned against the porch railing. A 20-year-old mountain bike, rusted at every joint, chain held on with electrical tape, front tire patched so many times the rubber looked quilted. Owen had found it at a dump site when he was 14, rebuilt it with parts from 3 other dead bikes. It wasn't pretty, but it moved. That bike was everything. It carried him 4 miles to the newspaper depot every morning, where he loaded 60 papers into a canvas bag and rode another 6 miles through town, dropping them on porches. It carried him to the gas station on Route 9 for his afternoon shift. It carried him to the pharmacy once a month to pick up Ruth's insulin. Without the bike, the math of Owen's life collapsed. No deliveries, no paycheck, no insulin, no Ruth. He swung his leg over the seat and pushed off into the dark. The route was muscle memory. Left on Birch, right on Old Mill, straight through the intersection where the street light had been broken since August. Owen pedaled steady, canvas bag heavy on his shoulder, breath trailing behind him like smoke. At the gas station, he clocked in at noon. Hank, the owner, nodded from behind the register. The radio on the counter crackled with weather alerts. "Worst storm in 20 years, the voice said. 12 to 18 inches expected. Residents are advised to stay indoors after 6 p.m. "You hearing this?" Hank said. "I hear it. Get out of here by 5. I'm closing early." Owen stocked shelves, mopped floors, and counted the register. Between customers, he pulled out a folded envelope from his back pocket. Inside, crumpled bills and a handful of coins. He counted twice. $186. Ruth's insulin was $200 even, $14 short. The pharmacy closed at 6. The storm was supposed to hit by 7. Even if he had the money, he couldn't make it in time. Owen folded the envelope and shoved it back in his pocket. His jaw tightened, but his face stayed flat. He'd learned a long time ago that frustration was a luxury. You either solved the problem or you lived with it. On his way out, he passed the trailer park office. Dale Whitfield stood on the steps, tacking eviction notices to the corkboard. Dale was the park manager, mid-50s, red-faced, the kind of man who smiled only when delivering bad news. "Owen." Dale didn't look up. "Your grandmother's 2 weeks late on rent. Again. She'll have it Friday." "Friday's not today." Dale finally looked at him. "Clock's ticking, son." Owen bit the inside of his cheek and kept walking. The wind was already picking up, pushing dead leaves across the dirt road in spirals. By the time he reached his trailer, the sky had turned the color of a bruise. The blizzard came early. By 5:15, the sky had gone dark and the first flakes were falling sideways. By 5:30, Owen could barely see the road. Wind cut through his hoodie like it wasn't there. His fingers locked around the handlebars, stiff and aching. The bike's front tire slipped on ice twice before he reached the main road. He pedaled past the edge of town, where the houses got bigger. Colonial 2 stories with wraparound porches, warm light in every window. Through one, he could see a family at a dinner table, a father carving something, kids laughing, a golden retriever under the table. Through another, a woman reading by a fireplace. Owen pedaled harder, not out of envy, out of habit. You don't stop to look at what you can't have. The trailer park entrance was almost invisible in the whiteout. Owen turned in by feel. His front tire hit a frozen rut and the handlebars jerked sideways. He steadied, kept going, and skidded to a stop outside his trailer. The porch light was dead. Power had gone out. Inside, Ruth sat in the dark, wrapped in every blanket they owned. 2 quilts, a bedspread, and Owen's winter coat draped over her shoulders. A candle flickered on the kitchen counter. The trailer creaked and groaned against the wind, like something trying to hold its breath. "Baby, you should have stayed at the station." "And leave you here alone?" Owen lit a second candle and put water on the hot plate. The propane still worked. Small mercy. He made Ruth a cup of tea, the last tea bag, and sat on the floor next to her chair. "Letter came today," Ruth said. She nodded toward the counter. Owen picked it up. County letterhead, official language about land reassessment and zoning reclassification for the Crestwood Trailer Park parcel. It asked residents to prepare for potential relocation pending a council vote. "Dale said don't worry about it," Ruth added. "Said it's just paperwork." Owen read it twice. Dale telling people not to worry was the surest sign that something was very wrong. But he folded the letter and put it back. Tonight wasn't the night for that fight. "How's your sugar?" "Low side of fine." "That's not fine." "It's fine enough." Owen looked at the mini fridge. 1 insulin pen left. Maybe 2 days' worth if she stretched it. The pharmacy was closed. The storm wasn't stopping, and he was still $14 short. He pulled the blanket tighter around Ruth's shoulders and sat back down. Outside, the wind screamed. The trailer walls shuddered. A sheet of ice cracked somewhere in the tree line, a sound like a gunshot. Ruth closed her eyes. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Owen sat on the floor and listened to it the way a sailor listens to an engine. Waiting for the stutter, the skip, the silence that means trouble. He didn't sleep. He watched the candle burn down to a stub and thought about insulin prices and eviction letters and the $14 he didn't have. He thought about his mother, briefly, the way you touch a bruise to see if it still hurts. It did. He stopped thinking about her. Somewhere around 11, a sound cut through the wind. A car horn, faint, one long blast, then nothing. Owen lifted his head, waited. It came again, shorter this time, weaker. He went to the window and wiped the condensation with his sleeve. Through the blizzard, maybe 200 yards out, off the road that ran past the trailer park, he could see taillights, red and blinking, then just red, then almost gone. Could be someone with a dead battery who'd call a tow in the morning. Could be someone who pulled over to wait out the storm. Could be nothing. The horn sounded a third time. This one didn't stop so much as fade, like someone's hand was slipping off the wheel. Owen looked at Ruth, asleep. He looked at the door. He looked at his boots by the mat, still wet from the ride home. He put them on. He grabbed his flashlight, zipped his hoodie to the throat, and wheeled his bike off the porch into the storm. The cold hit him like a wall. He leaned into it and pedaled toward the taillights. The car was a Mercedes, black, the kind Owen had only seen on television. It sat at a steep angle in the ditch, front end buried in snow, engine dead. The headlights were off. Only the taillights still pulsed, dim, fading, running on whatever battery life remained. Owen dropped his bike and ran to the driver's side. He shone his flashlight through the window. A woman, 60s, silver hair pinned up, wearing a dark silk gown with a pearl necklace. Her head rested against the steering wheel. Her eyes were half open, unfocused. Frost had formed on the inside of the windshield. Owen banged on the glass. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her lips moved, no sound. He tried the door, frozen shut. He pulled with both hands, planted his boots, and pulled again. Nothing. The ice had welded the seal to the frame. He looked around. No houses in sight, no passing cars. The road was a white void in both directions. His phone, he didn't have one. Hadn't been able to afford the bill since September. The woman's hand slid off the wheel. Her head tilted sideways. She was losing consciousness. Owen turned to his bike. He didn't think about it the way people think about decisions. There was no weighing of options, no calculating the cost. There was a woman dying in a car, and there was a tool that could open the door. He grabbed the chain first, ripped it free from the gears, wrapped it around his right hand, and swung it against the door seam. Once, twice, the ice cracked. On the fourth swing, the seal broke. The door groaned open 6 inches. Not enough. Owen jammed the bike frame into the gap, wedged it sideways, and leaned his full weight. Metal bent. The door popped open. The woman nearly fell out. Owen caught her. She weighed almost nothing. "Stay with me. What's your name?" "Eleanor." Barely a whisper. "Eleanor, I'm Owen. I'm going to get you warm." Her fingers gripped his sleeve, weak, automatic. The grip of someone who'd already decided to trust whoever showed up. Owen pulled her from the car and set her in the snow. She couldn't stand. Her legs had gone numb. He took off his hoodie and wrapped it around her shoulders. The cold hit his bare arms like a slap, but he didn't flinch. He needed heat, fast. He grabbed the bike tires, both of them, pulled them off the rims with his bare hands, rubber tearing at his skin. He stacked the tires against the side of the car, shoved newspaper from his delivery bag underneath, and struck a match from the box he kept in his back pocket. The rubber caught slow, then flared. Black smoke, ugly heat. But heat. Eleanor leaned toward the fire. Color crept back into her lips, her eyes focused. "My husband," she whispered. "Harrison." "We'll call him. First, I need to get you inside." Owen wrapped his arms around her and lifted. 200 yards to the trailer. No bike to ride, no coat to wear. Just snow to the knees and a woman he'd never met pressed against his chest. He walked. One step, then another. The wind tried to push him back. He leaned forward and kept going. His boots punched through the crust of ice with every step. His arms burned. His back screamed. Ruth was at the door before he reached the porch. She didn't ask questions. She pulled it open, took Eleanor's arm, and guided her inside. Owen stood on the porch for a moment, breathing hard. Behind him, the fire by the car had already gone out. The bike frame sat in the snow, bent and stripped. Pieces of chain, rubber, spokes, scattered like bones. He went inside and closed the door. Eleanor slept through the night on Ruth's chair, wrapped in every blanket they had. Ruth gave up her own bed and slept next to Owen on the kitchen floor with a folded towel as a pillow. Neither of them complained. That wasn't how they were built. By morning, the storm had passed. Sunlight hit the snow and turned everything white and blinding. Crestwood looked almost peaceful under the fresh cover, the rust and the rot temporarily buried. Eleanor woke just after 8. She blinked at the ceiling, then at the walls, then at Owen, who sat on a stool by the counter, wrapping his torn hands with strips of an old t-shirt. "You're the one," she said, "from last night." "Yes, ma'am." She looked at his hands, at the bandages already soaking through with pink, at the trailer, the cracked linoleum, the duct-taped windows, the single hot plate, the candle stubs from the night before. Her eyes moved slowly, taking in every detail the way someone does when they realize they've been saved by a person who has less than they do. "What's your name?" "Owen Taylor." "Owen." She said it carefully, like she was memorizing it. "I need to call my husband." Ruth handed her the landline, the old corded phone mounted to the wall, the only one in the trailer that still worked when the power went out. Eleanor dialed. Her hands were still shaking. The conversation was short. Owen heard fragments. "I'm alive. A young man. Crestwood Trailer Park. Come now." She hung up and looked at Owen. Her eyes were wet. He's coming. 2 hours later, a black town car turned onto the dirt road leading into Crestwood. It moved slow, tires crunching over frozen mud. Every trailer had a face in the window. A car like that had never come here. It was like watching a whale swim into a creek. It stopped in front of Owen's trailer. The driver opened the rear door. Harrison Graves stepped out. He was tall, mid-60s, silver hair, cashmere overcoat. His shoes cost more than Owen's trailer. He carried himself the way men carry themselves when they've spent 40 years being the most important person in every room. Dale Whitfield appeared within seconds. He'd been watching from his office window. He jogged across the frozen lot, hand extended. "Sir, welcome to Crestwood. I'm Dale Whitfield, park manager. Can I help you with something?" Harrison looked at Dale's hand, didn't take it, didn't slow down. He walked past him like Dale was a fence post and went straight to Owen's door. Dale stood there with his hand in the air. His smile collapsed. Owen opened the door. Harrison looked at him. This kid in a torn hoodie and bandaged hands, standing in the doorway of a trailer that was barely standing itself. Then he looked past Owen and saw Eleanor, sitting upright now, wrapped in Ruth's quilt, alive. Harrison Graves was not a man who cried. He'd built Graves Capital from a single rental property into a billion-dollar real estate portfolio. He'd survived 3 market crashes, a hostile takeover, and a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court. He did not cry. But when Eleanor reached for him, and he held her, and she whispered, "He carried me through the storm," his chin trembled. Just once. He pressed his face into her hair and held on. When he let go, he turned to Owen. "You saved my wife's life." "Anyone would have done it, sir." "No." Harrison's voice was steady again, but there was iron in it. "They wouldn't have. I passed 4 houses on my way here. Every one of them had a clear view of that road. None of them moved." Owen didn't answer. He didn't know what to say to that. Harrison reached into his coat and pulled out a checkbook. "Let me repay you." "I don't need charity, Mr. Graves." Harrison paused. The checkbook stayed open. He looked at Owen for a long time, the kind of look that wasn't evaluating or judging, but recognizing, like seeing something he hadn't expected to find. "Then tell me what you do need." Owen glanced at the porch. The destroyed bike frame still sat in the snow where he'd left it. Spokes bent, chain gone, tires burned. "I need my bike back so I can work." Harrison looked at the wreckage. He understood immediately. This wasn't pride for the sake of pride. This boy had turned down money because what he needed was a way to earn it. Harrison sat down on the porch step. The cashmere coat touched frozen wood. He didn't seem to notice. "Tell me about yourself, Owen." Owen shrugged. "Not much to tell. Humor me." So Owen told him. 2 jobs since he was 16. Newspaper delivery at dawn, gas station until close. Graduated high school but couldn't afford college. Applied to 3 schools, got into 2, attended none. Every dollar went to rent, food, and Ruth's medication. Harrison listened without interrupting. When Owen finished, he said, "You got into 2 colleges and chose to stay here." "I chose my grandmother." Harrison nodded slowly. Something shifted behind his eyes. "Your grandmother," Eleanor said softly from inside. "She's diabetic. She needs insulin." Owen's jaw tightened. He hadn't told Eleanor that. Ruth must have, sometime during the night while Owen slept. Harrison didn't ask permission. He made a call. Within an hour, a pharmacy delivery arrived at the trailer door. 3 months of insulin, paid in full. Ruth held the box and stared at it. She pressed it against her chest like it was something holy. She didn't say thank you. She couldn't. The words wouldn't come. Harrison handed Owen a business card, thick paper, embossed. Graves Capital, Harrison W. Graves, Chairman. If you ever need anything, you call this number, day or night. Owen took the card. He turned it over in his bandaged fingers, careful not to smear blood on the edges. "Thank you, sir," Harrison nodded. He helped Eleanor to the car, settled her into the back seat, and stopped before closing the door. He looked back at the trailer, at the porch, at the bike bones in the snow, at Owen standing in the cold without a coat. Then he got in the car and left. Dale watched the town car disappear down the road. He stood perfectly still. His face had gone from confusion to something harder. He'd recognized the name on that car. Graves. As in Graves Capital. As in buildings, hotels, half the commercial real estate in the state. A billionaire had just walked into his trailer park, passed his extended hand, and gone straight to the kid he'd been trying to evict. Dale turned back to his office, closed the door, picked up his phone. "We've got a problem," he said. 3 days later, a delivery truck pulled up to Owen's trailer. The driver unloaded a box the size of a refrigerator. Inside was a bike, brand new. Carbon frame, hydraulic brakes, puncture-proof tires. A note taped to the handlebar. "For work, not charity. H.G." Owen ran his fingers along the frame. He'd never owned anything that wasn't broken first. That same week, Harrison called. He'd arranged a part-time clerk position at a Graves Capital satellite office in the next town. Filing, data entry, answering phones. $12 an hour, nothing glamorous, but honest and close enough to ride to. "I don't want a handout," Owen said. "It's a job, Owen. You show up, you work, you get paid, same as anyone." Owen showed up Monday at 8. He wore his cleanest shirt and the boots with the glued sole. The office manager, a woman named Sandra, showed him his desk. It had a computer on it. Owen had never had a desk. At home, things shifted. Ruth's insulin arrived on schedule. Her blood sugar stabilized. She started cooking again. Nothing fancy. Rice and beans, collard greens, the things she made when she felt like herself. Owen came home one evening to the smell of cornbread and almost didn't recognize his own trailer. For the first time in years, the math of Owen's life added up. 2 incomes, medicine covered, food in the fridge. He caught himself smiling at things, the sound of Ruth humming, the way the new bike glided over the frozen ruts without a sound. But Crestwood hadn't changed. Dale Whitfield made sure of that. He stood at the mailbox cluster every morning talking to whoever would listen. "That boy's running a scam, playing that rich man for a fool. You watch. People like him don't get lucky, they get caught." Most neighbors ignored it. A few didn't. Owen noticed the looks, the sideways glances, the doors that closed a little faster when he rode past. And one night, late, Owen saw light in Dale's office window. Dale on the phone, pacing, papers spread across his desk, a map pinned to the wall with red marks on it. Owen didn't know what it meant. Not yet. The eviction notices went up on a Tuesday. Owen was riding home from the office when he saw them. White paper stapled to every door in Crestwood. Official letterhead, 30 days to vacate. The trailer park land had been acquired for redevelopment by a company called Ridgeline Properties, LLC. Owen had never heard of Ridgeline Properties. Neither had anyone else. By evening, the park was in chaos. Families stood in clusters, reading the notices aloud to each other like they might say something different the second time. An elderly couple in Trailer 9 had lived there 31 years. A single mother in Trailer 14 had 3 kids under 10. A veteran in Trailer 22 had nowhere else to go. Owen went to Dale's office. The door was open. Dale sat behind his desk with his feet up, eating a sandwich. "What is this?" Owen held up the notice. "Progress." Dale took another bite. "The land's been sold. New owners want everyone out." "You can't just throw people out. There are laws." Dale smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "The law is exactly what's happening here, son. Read the lease. Month-to-month tenancy. 30-day notice. All legal." "Who's Ridgeline Properties?" "Investors. That's all you need to know." Owen looked at the map on the wall behind Dale, the same map he'd seen through the window. Red marks on every lot. Dollar figures written next to each one. The numbers were large, much larger than the land was worth. "You're part of this," Owen said. It wasn't a question. Dale stopped chewing. His smile went flat. "Be careful, Owen. You've had a nice little run lately. Rich friends, new bike, fancy job. Don't push your luck." Owen left, but the threat hung in the air like smoke. 2 days later, Sheriff Brenda Coleman knocked on Owen's door. She was a tall woman, late 40s, with the kind of face that didn't give anything away. She'd been county sheriff for 6 years. People trusted her, mostly. She did things by the book, even when the book was slow. "Owen Taylor?" "Yes, ma'am. I've got a report that tools were stolen from the park maintenance shed 2 nights ago. Power drill, circular saw, tool belt. About $800 worth. The report lists you as a suspect." "That's not true." "I'm not saying it is, but I've got a sworn statement from the park manager and a neighbor who says she saw someone matching your description near the shed that night." "Which neighbor?" Coleman didn't answer that. "I need to search the area around your trailer. You can say no, but it'll go easier if you cooperate." Owen stepped aside. He had nothing to hide. Coleman and her deputy searched for 20 minutes. They found the tools, a power drill and a circular saw, under a tarp behind Owen's trailer, next to the propane tanks. Owen stared at them. He'd never seen those tools in his life. "I didn't put those there." "I hear you," Coleman said. Her voice was neutral, professional, but she was already reaching for the handcuffs. "I still have to bring you in. You can make a statement at the station." Ruth came to the door as Coleman led Owen to the cruiser. She held onto the door frame with both hands. Her lips moved, but the sound that came out wasn't words. It was the kind of noise a person makes when something breaks inside them that they thought was already broken. "Baby, what's happening?" "It's a mistake, Grandma. I'll be home soon." Ruth watched the cruiser pull away. Her knees buckled. She caught herself on the railing, the same railing Owen had been meaning to fix for months. It bent under her weight, but held. A neighbor across the lot saw her stumble. They looked away. Owen spent the night in a holding cell. Concrete bench, fluorescent light that never turned off, a toilet with no seat. He sat with his back against the wall and his hands on his knees and thought about who had access to the maintenance shed, who had a key, who would benefit from making him look like a thief. The answer was obvious. The proof was the problem. By morning, the news had spread. The Crestwood Gazette ran a brief item. Local man arrested on theft charges. Same individual recently featured in rescue story. Dale gave a quote. "I always had concerns about that family. Trouble follows some people." The story traveled fast. Someone posted the article online with the headline rewritten, "Blizzard Hero or Small Town Thief?" It got 200 shares in a day. Comment sections split down the middle. Half defended Owen, half said they knew it all along. It reached the office where Owen worked. Sandra called him that afternoon, after he'd been released on his own recognizance. "Owen, I'm sorry. Corporate says we have to suspend you pending the investigation. It's policy." "I understand." He didn't, but he said it anyway. Harrison called that evening. Owen almost didn't answer. "I heard what happened," Harrison said. "Tell me the truth." "I didn't steal anything, Mr. Graves." A pause, then, "I believe you." "Your people might not. I already lost the job." "That's temporary. We'll sort this out." But the damage was already done. Without the clerk job, Owen was back to one income. The newspaper route alone didn't cover rent, food, and insulin. The math was broken again. Dale made sure everyone knew. He stood at the mailbox cluster with a copy of the Gazette, shaking his head with a sadness that looked rehearsed. "Shame. That Graves man tried to help him, and this is how he repays it. Some people just can't be helped." Neighbors who'd been friendly last week now avoided Owen's eyes. The single mother in Trailer 14 moved her kids to the other side of the playground when Owen walked past. The veteran in 22 locked his shed and bought a new padlock. Even the elderly couple in Trailer 9, who'd known Ruth for years, stopped coming by for coffee. Owen sat on the porch steps that evening. The new bike leaned against the railing. The sun was going down behind the tree line, and the shadows stretched long across the frozen ground. He could hear Ruth inside, moving slowly, trying to cook something with what they had left. He looked at the bike. He thought about Harrison's card. He thought about the night of the storm, the woman in the car, the chain in his hands, the blood, the cold. He said it quietly, almost to himself. I should have just stayed inside that night. Ruth's voice came through the screen door, soft but sure. No, baby, you shouldn't have, and you know it. Owen didn't answer. He sat there until the sun went all the way down. Harrison Graves did not make phone calls when he was angry. He made visits. He showed up at Owen's trailer 2 days after the arrest. No town car this time. He drove himself. A gray sedan, unremarkable. The kind of car a man drives when he doesn't want to be noticed. Owen was sitting on the porch. He hadn't moved from that spot much since the suspension. The new bike was still there, untouched. Riding it felt wrong now, like wearing a suit that belonged to someone else. Walk with me, Harrison said. They walked the perimeter of Crestwood. Harrison looked at everything, the trailers, the lots, the fences, the dirt roads. He looked the way he looked at properties before he bought them. Not with greed, with calculation. I've built $1 billion company, Harrison said. I didn't get there by trusting people. I got there by reading them. And I read you the first day I met you. You're not a thief. Someone wants you gone. Dale Whitfield. Tell me everything. Owen told him. The eviction notices, Ridgeline properties, the map in Dale's office with red marks and inflated dollar figures, the phone calls late at night, the way Dale had smiled when he delivered the threat. Harrison listened. When Owen finished, Harrison made one call. Not to a lawyer, to a private investigator named Ross, a man Harrison described only as someone who finds what people try to hide. Ross worked fast. Within 4 days, the picture came together. Ridgeline Properties LLC was a shell company, filed 6 months ago with the state, registered agent, a law office in Richmond. But the operating agreement, buried in state records, listed 2 beneficial owners. One was a holding company tied to Councilman Gerald Voss. The other was Dale Whitfield. Dale was selling the trailer park land to himself, or rather, to a company he co-owned with a sitting councilman, at a price 10 times the assessed value. The difference would be covered by a county redevelopment grant, public money, signed off by Voss's committee. That was the graft. But Ross found more. The maintenance shed had a security camera. Dale had installed it himself 2 years ago to catch residents dumping trash. He'd forgotten about it, or assumed no one would check. The footage from the night of the alleged theft showed one person entering the shed at 11:42 p.m. It wasn't Owen. It was Dale Whitfield. He carried tools out in a canvas bag, walked directly to the back of Owen's trailer, and placed them under the tarp. The entire theft was staged, filed, prosecuted, and it had taken Ross less than a week to prove it. Harrison brought the evidence to Sheriff Coleman. He laid it out on her desk, corporate filings, bank transfers, security footage, and a timeline that connected every piece. Coleman watched the footage twice. She didn't speak for a long time. I arrested an innocent man, she said. You followed a report, Harrison replied. Now, follow the evidence. Coleman looked at Owen, who stood by the door. I should have looked harder. I'm sorry. You're looking now, Owen said. That's what matters. Coleman picked up her phone. She called the county prosecutor. Then she called the local news desk. Then she called the clerk at town hall and requested an emergency public hearing. Harrison made calls of his own. He contacted 3 media outlets, 2 civil rights organizations, and a documentary filmmaker who owed him a favor. By the end of the day, the hearing had press credentials reserved and a live stream link circulating online. Dale heard about the hearing the same way everyone else did, through the grapevine. He went to Councilman Voss's office. The door was locked. Voss didn't answer his calls. Dale sat in his trailer park office that night alone. The map with the red marks was still on the wall. The phone on his desk didn't ring. For the first time, the silence in Crestwood wasn't peaceful. It was the silence before a verdict. Harrison called Owen that evening. His voice was calm, precise, the voice of a man who had done this kind of thing before. Tomorrow, you stand in that room and you tell them exactly who you are. Owen looked at his bandaged hands. The scars from the bike chain had started to heal. They'd leave marks, thin white lines across his palms, permanent. "Yes, sir," he said. The town hall was full by 6:30, every seat taken, people standing along the walls and in the doorway. Crestwood residents filled the front rows. The elderly couple from Trailer 9, the single mother from 14, the veteran from 22. Behind them, townspeople who'd read the article, seen the online posts, heard the rumors. 3 camera crews set up in the back. A live stream counter in the corner of one screen ticked upward. 500 viewers, then 1,000, then 2,000. Dale Whitfield arrived at 6:45. He wore a blazer and a tie, which no one in Crestwood had ever seen him wear. He walked to the front row and sat down. His face was composed, but his right knee bounced. Councilman Voss was already there, seated at the council table, shuffling papers and avoiding eye contact with everyone in the room. The hearing was called to order by the council chair, a woman named Patricia Healy. She explained the purpose: a public review of the Crestwood redevelopment project and related complaints, and asked Harrison Graves to present his findings. Harrison stood. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke the way a man speaks when the facts are enough. He started with the corporate filings. Ridgeline Properties, LLC, formed 6 months ago, registered in Richmond. He displayed the operating agreement on a projector screen. Dale Whitfield and a holding company traced to Councilman Voss, listed as co-owners. The park manager and a sitting councilman created a company to buy the land they already controlled, Harrison said. They set the purchase price at 10 times the assessed value. The difference was to be funded by a county redevelopment grant, your tax dollars, approved by Councilman Voss's own committee. Murmurs in the room. Voss shifted in his chair. His papers stopped shuffling. Harrison continued. Bank records. Wire transfers from Ridgeline Properties to Dale's personal account. 3 payments over 4 months, totaling $62,000. Payments that had no corresponding invoice, no contract, no explanation. "These are kickbacks," Harrison said. "Plain and simple." Then the security footage. Harrison played it on the projector. The timestamp read 11:42 p.m. The shed door opened. Dale Whitfield walked in, picked up a power drill and a circular saw, placed them in a canvas bag, and walked directly to the back of Owen Taylor's trailer. He placed the bag under a tarp and left. The room went silent. Not the uncomfortable silence of disagreement, the silence of people watching someone get caught. Dale stood up. That's not, you can't just—" "Sit down, Mr. Whitfield," Patricia Healy said. Dale sat. His knee had stopped bouncing. His face had gone gray. Harrison turned to the room. Owen Taylor was arrested based on a theft report filed by the man who committed the theft. He lost his job. He lost the trust of his neighbors. His grandmother's health suffered. All because he was convenient to frame. A young black man in a trailer park, easy to accuse, easy to disbelieve. Owen stood up. The room turned to face him. He hadn't prepared a speech. He didn't have notes. He just had what happened. "I'm not here to make anyone feel bad," he said. "I'm here because people deserve the truth." He told the story simply. The storm, the car in the ditch, the woman inside, his bike, the only thing he owned that mattered, and the choice to tear it apart because someone was dying. "I didn't think about who she was. I didn't think about what I'd get. I just thought about what my grandmother taught me. You help who's in front of you, even when it costs you everything." He paused, looked at Dale. "I destroyed my bike to save a stranger. He destroyed my name to save a land deal." The room exhaled. Someone in the back started clapping, then more, then the whole room. Patricia Healy let the applause settle before opening the floor. She didn't have to ask twice. The veteran from Trailer 22 stood first. His name was Walt Bennett, and he'd been quiet for 6 years. Not tonight. "Dale Whitfield charged me $150 for a water heater repair that took him 20 minutes, Walt said. "When I complained, he told me I could fix it myself or find somewhere else to live. I'm 73 years old. Where exactly was I supposed to go?" The single mother from Trailer 14 was next. Her name was Kelsey Moore. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "He raised my lot rent twice in 1 year. No notice, no reason. When I asked for receipts, he said I should be grateful he let me stay. I've got 3 children. I didn't have a choice." One by one, they stood. Stories of overcharging, threats, ignored maintenance requests, retaliation against anyone who pushed back. 6 residents, then 8, then 11. Each one a piece of a pattern that had been invisible until someone turned on the lights. Dale stared at the floor. His hands gripped the edges of his seat. The blazer he'd worn to look respectable now looked like a costume on the wrong actor. Eleanor Graves stood up from the second row. She still wore a brace on her left wrist from the night of the blizzard. She walked to the front and stood next to Owen. "This young man carried me through a blizzard," she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. "He didn't ask my name. He didn't ask what I could give him. He took off his coat in a snowstorm and gave it to a stranger. He burned his only transportation to keep me alive. And when we offered to repay him, he asked for a bike so he could go back to work." She turned to the room. "If you want to know what character looks like, you're looking at it." Councilman Voss tried to stand. Sheriff Coleman, who had been waiting by the side door, stepped forward. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Gerald Voss, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement of public funds, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent." Voss's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Coleman's deputy approached Dale. Dale didn't resist. He didn't speak. He stood, put his hands behind his back, and stared at the floor as the cuffs clicked shut. Patricia Healy read the formal dismissal of all charges against Owen Taylor aloud. Every word. The theft report, dismissed. The arrest record, expunged. The suspension from Graves Capital, reversed, effective immediately. Harrison Graves stood one last time. He looked at Owen, then at the room. "I've built companies. I've built buildings. I've built things that will stand for 100 years. He paused. "But I've never built anything as strong as what this young man showed me in a snowstorm." He let the silence hold for a beat. Character isn't what you do when people watch. It's what you do when the snow hides everything. The room rose. Every person, standing. The cameras kept rolling. The live stream count had passed 12,000. Ruth sat in the front row. She didn't stand. Her legs wouldn't let her. But her face was the brightest thing in that room. Tears ran down her cheeks, and her lips moved in words only Owen could read. "I'm so proud of you, baby." Owen looked at his hands. The scars from the bike chain had turned white. Thin lines across both palms, like stitches in leather. He'd carry them for the rest of his life. He closed his fists, not in anger, in something closer to belief. 1 month after the hearing, Crestwood looked different. Not because of new paint or new roads, because of what was no longer there. The eviction notices were gone. The red-marked map had been taken as evidence. Dale's office sat empty, door padlocked, weeds already growing through the steps. Harrison Graves established the Crestwood Community Land Trust. He bought the trailer park land at fair market value, not the inflated number Dale and Voss had invented, and transferred ownership to the residents. Each family received a deed to their lot. No rent, no landlord. No one could take it from them again. Ruth got a small house, not a trailer, a house. 1 story, 2 bedrooms, a porch with a railing that didn't bend. Harrison had it built on the same lot where the old trailer had stood. Owen insisted on that. Crestwood was home. It had always been home. The difference now was that it belonged to them. The elderly couple in Trailer 9 brought Ruth a pie the day she moved in. Kelsey Moore from 14 came with her 3 kids, who ran through the new house touching everything like it was a museum. Walt Bennett from 22 showed up with a toolbox and fixed the porch light before anyone asked. Nobody mentioned the weeks they'd avoided Owen's eyes. They didn't need to. The fact that they were here said enough. Owen received a full scholarship to Virginia State University. Engineering program. Harrison wrote the recommendation letter himself. 3 paragraphs, no embellishment, just facts. The admissions office called it the most compelling letter they'd received in a decade. On the morning Owen left for campus, he packed a single duffel bag, clothes, a notebook, a pen, and Harrison's business card. worn soft at the edges from being turned over in his fingers too many times. Ruth stood on the new porch. She wore a dress, which she almost never did. Her insulin was paid for through the end of the year. Her hands didn't shake. "You call me every Sunday," she said. "Every Sunday. And you eat real food, not that cafeteria mess." "Yes, ma'am." She pulled him close, held on for a long time. When she let go, she straightened his collar and stepped back. Owen rode out of Crestwood on the bike Harrison had given him. He passed the mailbox cluster, the empty office, the lot where the new houses were going up. He passed the spot on the road where he'd found Eleanor's car, the ditch now filled, the ice long melted, nothing left to mark what had happened there. He didn't stop, but he slowed down, just for a second. On his keychain, clipped to the duffel bag strap, a piece of bent bike chain caught the morning light. Owen Taylor's story didn't stay in Crestwood. Someone recorded the town hall hearing and uploaded it that night. By morning, 50,000 views. By the end of the week, 2 million. The video of Owen, scarred hands, no notes, telling the truth, became the thing people shared when they wanted to prove that decency still existed. #BikeForALife trended for 9 days. People posted their own stories of helping strangers at a cost. The hashtag became a quiet movement, not the kind that marches, but the kind that changes how you treat the next person you meet. Dale Whitfield pleaded guilty to fraud and filing a false report. 18 months. Councilman Voss resigned before trial. The redevelopment grant was revoked. Owen started classes in September. Engineering, full scholarship. He called Ruth every Sunday. He never missed. Would you have destroyed your only possession to save a stranger? Tell me in the comments. If this story made you feel something, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Yo, do the right thing, even when it costs you especially when it costs you. 'Cause the cheap version of being a good person ain't real. It's just convenience wearing a kindness costume. Real character shows up when you're the one with the most to lose.